Hello dear learners, welcome to SWAM NPTEL course on Methodology of Educational Research, and I am your course coordinator Dr. Sarita Anand from Department of Education, Vinay Bhavan, Vishwabharati, Santiniketan. And today we will talk about the module 21 on the qualitative methods of research part 1. Because this is a lengthy topic, that is why we have participated in different parts. So, we will start with the lecture 21, and before that concept covered. Earlier in previous lecture we have covered the descriptive research, its concept and survey studies, different types of descriptive research and survey studies, different forms of surveys, planning a survey, how to plan, then process of conducting a survey research, and also little bit we have gone through the online surveys which we are at present using in our researches. So, start with the Creswell and his associates elaborated about the qualitative research methods, that it demonstrate a different approach to scholarly inquiry, that methods of qualitative that is different from the quantitative research. This, although the process are similar in the different types of researches, but the qualitative methods rely on the non-numerical data like words, text, images, videos and observation etc., and draw on the diverse designs. So, qualitative researches explore deep understanding of the experiences, opinions and behaviors using non-numerical data like text, audio, video etc., and trying to find out the answer of why and how questions, focusing on the meanings and context, unlike quantitative research, to gain rich contextual understanding of concepts, opinions, behaviors and the meanings of the people attached to them. So, if we go for the meaning of the qualitative research methods, it refers to a collection of systematic approaches used to explore and interpret the depth, richness and the complexity of phenomena. In contrast to quantitative researches which emphasize numerical measurement and statistical techniques, qualitative research seeks to understand the meaning and interpretation of motivational or you can say the patterns embedded within the social, cultural and individual experiences. When we are talking about these methods, these are especially valuable when researchers aim to examine the subjective dimensions of human behavior, including their belief, attitude, perception and lived experiences. And in qualitative inquiry, it enables researchers to gain insight that are often inaccessible through the numerical data alone. So, in quantitative researches we are trying to see the status, and here in qualitative researches we go inside to the collected data. So, here data is numerical data is not important. So, qualitative research is grounded in non-numerical forms of data such as spoken words, written text, images and observation of the people, and the common data collection methods include interview, focus groups discussions, participant observation and content or document analysis. Through these approaches, researchers are able to examine phenomena holistically, capturing context, meaning and the subtle variations may be overlooked in quantitative studies. A definition or a defining feature of qualitative research is its feasibility and iterative nature. So, we should remember that this iterative continuous nature is allowing the researchers to research, design and focus to evaluate or evolve as a new insights or emerge during the study process. So, another distinguishing feature of the qualitative research is its reliance on the interpretive and inductive reasoning. So, when we are talking about the inductive reasoning rather than the testing predetermined hypothesis, qualitative researchers allow concepts, categories and theoretical insights to emerge from the data itself. So, using processes such as constant comparison and the thematic analysis, researchers identify recurring patterns and themes that illuminate the underlying dynamics of the phenomena which we are studying. Qualitative research is widely applied in education, social sciences, psychology, anthropology and related fields where an in-depth understanding of human behavior and social processes are essential. Although qualitative findings are not intended to be generalized similar to quantitative, but in the same way as quantitative results, so they provide rich contextualized insights that contributes significantly to a holistic understanding of educational and social realities. What it means? It means qualitative findings and researches are not going to generalize its finding. Its goal is not the generalization, whereas the quantitative researches try to generalize its finding to the population studied. So, nature and the concept of qualitative researches. For many years, qualitative writers had to discuss the characteristics of qualitative research and convince faculty and audiences as to their legitimacy. So, now these discussions are less frequently found in the literature and there is some consensus as to what constitutes the qualitative inquiry. So, if you go for the review studies of different research books by the different authors, they convey the nature of the qualitative research, like the Creswell, the Hatch and Marshall. I have given the reference, you can go through it. They have defined that the nature of qualitative research is like it is conducted in natural setting. Researcher as the instrument, researcher is also an important factor of this research. Multiple data sources, inductive and deductive analysis, participant meanings, emergent design, reflexivity is also very important aspect of this qualitative research and the holistic account of the research. So, let us take one by one about the nature and concept of this qualitative research. I had taken the reference from the Creswell also. So, you can get all this detail in the Creswell books. So, natural setting, qualitative researches tend to collect data in the field at the site where participants experience the issue or problem under the study. Researchers do not bring individuals into a lab or a contrived situation, nor do they typically send out the instruments for individuals to complete. So, they are not going for the filling the questionnaire and all. So, this close up information gathered by actually talking directly to the people and seeing them behave and act within their context in a major characteristics of qualitative research. So, in the natural setting, the researcher have to face interaction, observation, often extending over a prolonged period of time. So, it is a time taking process. Researcher as key instrument. Here in qualitative researches, researchers collect the data themselves through examining the documents, observing the behavior of respondents or the interviewing participants. They may be using a protocol of an instrument or recording data, but the researchers are the one who actually gather the information and interpret it. So, they do not tend to use or rely on the questionnaire or the instrument developed by the other researchers. So, their role is important. The multiple sources of data, quantitative researches typically gather multiple forms of data such as interviews, observation, document analysis, audio visual information rather than relying on a single data source. So, here may be possibility of triangulation is there. There are all open ended forms of data in which the participants share their ideas freely, not constrained by the predetermined scales or the instruments. Then the researcher review all of the collected data and make sense of it and organize it into the codes and themes and cut across all of the data sources. So, you will find these coding and segmenting etc., in your analysis paper. Then the next nature of qualitative research is inductive and deductive data analysis. Qualitative researchers typically work inductively. So, basic nature is inductive, building patterns, categories and themes from the bottom of the organizing data into increasingly more abstract units of information. So, this inductive process illustrates working back and forth between the themes and the database until the researcher have established a comprehensive set of themes. Then deductively the researchers look back at their whole data from the themes to determine if there any evidence can support each theme or whether they need to gather additional information. So, thus while the process begins inductively, deductive thinking also plays an important role as analysis moves forward. Then participants' meanings. In the entire qualitative research process, the researchers keep a focus on the learning that the meaning that the participant hold about the problem or issue, not the meaning that researchers bring to the research or that writers express in the literature. What that means? Whatever participants are thinking, that is the focus in the qualitative research, not the researchers thinking. Then the emergent design, the research process of qualitative researches is emergent. This means that the initial plan for research cannot be tightly prescribed and some or all phases of the process may change or shift after the researchers enters in the field and begin to collect the data. According to the environment or the circumstances, the planning can be changed. For example, the questions may change, the forms of the data collection may shift and the individuals studied and the sites visited may be modified if required. These shifts signal that the researchers are developing deeper and deeper into the topic or the phenomena under the study. They keep behind the qualitative research is to learn about the problem or issue or participants and to address the research to obtain the required information. Now, there is a term reflexivity. The reflex in the qualitative research inquiries reflect about how their role in the study and their personal background. Culture and the experience hold potential for sharing their interpretation, such as the themes they advance and the meaning they ascribe to the data. This is important. This aspect of method is more than merely advancing biases and values in the study, but how the background of the researcher actually may shape the direction of the study. So, personal biases, thinking, choices of the researcher also affects the research. The holistic account, qualitative researchers try to develop a complex picture of the problem or issue under the study. This involves reporting multiple perspectives, identifying the many factors involved in the situation and generally sketching the larger picture of the emerges. This larger picture is not necessarily a linear model of cause and effect, but rather a model of multiple factors interacting in different ways. This picture of qualitative researchers would say mirrors real life and the way they are invents operates in the real situation. So, now we will talk about the characteristics of the qualitative research methods. When we are going to conduct the qualitative research, the different defining characteristics are there and we will go through this visual of characteristics of qualitative research methods. I have tried to simplify it. It is open-ended design, subjectivity is there is chances of subjectivity, in-depth inquiry, inductive reasoning, holistic orientation, multiple data methods, interpretive analysis and participants perspective is also the main characteristics here in the qualitative research. So, let us take one by one. Open-ended and flexible design. Qualitative research is marked by an open and adaptable research design. As I have mentioned, it can be changed or evolved during the time period of the research. Unlike quantitative studies that rely on the fixed variables and standardized procedure, qualitative studies allow researchers to modify their methods as new themes and insights emerge. This flexibility supports a more responsive and useful exploration of the research problem. The second is subjectivity and the researcher's involvement. This is the main characteristics, one of the main characteristics of the qualitative research, where it recognizes the subjectivity is an inherent part of the research process. Whose subjectivity? May be subjectivity of the researchers or the respondents. The perspectives, the experiences, the interpretations, or both from the researchers and participants are viewed as a valuable resource of the meaning of the collected data. So, researchers engage in reflexivity, critically examining how their own assumptions and positionality or the personality influence the research process and its outcome. The third characteristic is in-depth inquiry and rich descriptions. Central aim of qualitative research is to achieve in-depth rather than the breadth. So, throughout method of this method, such as interviews, observations and focus groups, researchers generate detailed context-rich description that offer a comprehensive understanding of participants' experiences and social reality at the time of conducting the research. The fourth characteristic is inductive reasoning and emergent design. Qualitative researchers follow an inductive logic, basically where theories and conceptual frameworks are developed from the data rather than to imposed beforehand. The research design is often emergent, evolving as analysis progress and new understanding comes on the surface. The fifth holistic and contextual orientation, this characteristic talks about the holistic perspective, emphasizing the importance of context. Researchers examine how social, cultural, institutional and environmental factors or any other factors interact to shape human behaviors and experiences, thereby revealing the interconnected nature of educational and social phenomena. The sixth characteristic is use of multiple data collection methods, and qualitative researchers employ diverse methods such as interview, focus group discussion, participant observation, document analysis, etc. Whichever is feasible, they can use it. Using multiple sources of data enabling the triangulation, which strengthen the credibility and trustworthiness of the findings by the study. The seventh point is interpretive data analysis. This qualitative data analysis is interpretive in nature and typically involves the processes such as coding, categorization, thematic analysis, etc. Analysis is an ongoing and iterative process which with the researcher continually refining the interpretations as they engage more deeply with their collected data. The eighth characteristic is emphasis on participants' perspective. This qualitative research prioritizes the participants' viewpoints, seeking to understand the phenomena from their perspective, and by valuing researcher participants' voices, belief and interpretations, qualitative research ensures that findings remain grounded in the lived realities. And together these characteristics makes qualitative research a powerful and impactful framework for the investigating the complexity of human behavior and social life. Now, we will talk about the type of quality research or research methods or the techniques. Here I have given the visual regarding the different types of qualitative research methods and techniques, and this is also prepared with the help of Napkin AI. So, you can also utilize this AI. This is good for the teachers like us to prepare the interactive content. So, here you can see that case study, ethnography, narrative analysis, grounded theory, which we will discuss in the upcoming lectures, and the content analysis, participant observation, focus groups, discussion, interviews, etc. are the part of the this qualitative research methods. Now, we will go one by one. The first one is interview. We all know that what is interview. It involves the guided, open-ended conversation and between the researcher and the participants to explore the experiences, opinions and perspectives in depth. There may be conduct the individually or in a small group. So, it depends on the nature of the research. For example, interviewing teachers to understand their experiences and perception of newly introduced teaching strategy or technique, like in COVID period, many teachers were feeling the difficulty to go for hybrid mode. The second one is focus group. This focus group discussion or focus group is bringing together a small number of participants to discuss a specific topic under the facilitation of the researcher. This method captures, shares the experiences and group interaction. These shared experiences are very valuable for the qualitative researches. For example, conducting focus group discussion with the students to explore their attitude towards online learning or digital platforms. The third method is participant observation. This participant observation requires the researcher to immerse themselves in the natural setting of the participants. So, this immersion is a tough task, but this is one of the more important aspect of the qualitative research for the observing and sometime participating in daily activities to gain an insider's understanding, not told by the participants, but by the experiencing. So, for example, observing classroom interactions over an extended period to understand the teacher student dynamics, and this participant observation we use in ethnographic studies also. The fourth one is content analysis. Content analysis involves systematic examination of written, audio, video or the digital materials to identify patterns, themes and meanings from that content. So, for example, analyzing the curriculum documents or the policy text to examine the representativeness of inclusive education. The fifth one is case study. A case study provides an in-depth analysis of a single case such as institution, program, individual or event using the multiple data sources. For example, you can take that the studying a school implementing the innovative digital pedagogy to understand the institutional change processes. So, this case studies can be anything which that is required for the research purpose. The ethnography entails prolonged engagement with a cultural or social group to understand shared practices, values and their meanings from an insider perspective. For example, an ethnographic study of a school culture in a residential school like Eklavya Vidyalaya, if you are going to study, that come under ethnography. Then the seventh one is narrative analysis. Narrative analysis examines the personal stories to understand how individuals construct meaning and identify or their identity through lived experiences. For example, analyzing life story of first generation learners to understand the educational aspirations and challenges they face. The eighth one is grounded theory. Grounded theory is an inductive approach in which researchers generate theory directly from the data through systematic comparison and analysis. And for example, developing a theory on teacher professional growth based on interview data from the novice teachers. Here this case study, ethnography, narrative analysis and grounded theory is in your curriculum or of this course. So, we will deal in later lectures. So, now we will talk about the researcher's role and reflexivity. This as mentioned in the list of the characteristics also, qualitative research is interpretive research. The inquirer is typically involved in the sustained and intensive experience with the participants. This introduces a range of strategic, ethical and personal issues into the qualitative research process said by Locke and its colleagues. So, with these concerns in mind, inquirers explicitly identify reflexivity or reflexively their biases, values and personal backgrounds such as gender, history, culture, socioeconomic status that shape their interpretations formed during the study. In addition, gaining entry to a research site and the ethical issues that might arise are also elements of the researcher's role. Now, the reflexivity has the two important points, that is, first one is the past experience. This includes the statement about past experiences with the research problem or with the participants or setting that help the reader understand the connection between the researchers and the study. These experiences may involve participation in the setting, past educational or the work experiences or the culture, ethnicity, race, caste, creed, religion, socioeconomic background or other demographics that tie the researchers directly to the study. So, this reflexivity is important for the researcher's purpose and how past experiences shape the interpretation. Be explicit then about how these experiences may potentially shape the interpretation the researcher make during the study. For example, the experiences may cause researchers to learn towards certain themes, to actively look for the evidences to support their positions and to create the favorable or unfavorable conclusions about the sites or the participants. Many times we have seen that the biased researches or research reports come out due to this reflexivity, where the past experiences or the previous knowledge or insight of the researcher influence the research result. So, how can reflexive thinking be incorporated into your qualitative study fruitfully? So, Creswell asked this question, and you can write notes about your personal experiences during the study. These notes might include observations about the process of data collection, hunches about what you are learning or seeing at that place, and the concerns about the reactions of the participants to the research process. These ideas can be written as memos. In the qualitative research, we at the time of analysis we create the memo notes and written during the research process, and that reflect on the process or that help shape the development of codes and themes for the researcher. In writing these reflective notes in the form of memos, how do you know whether you are being sufficiently reflexive for a qualitative study? This is also asked by the Creswell. So, sufficient reflexivity occurs when the researcher record notes during the process of research, reflect on their own personal experiences and consider how their personal experiences may shape their interpretation of the results. Also, qualitative researchers need to limit their discussion about the personal experiences so that they do not override to the importance of content or methods in the study. Many times it happens that override the research. So, another aspect of reflecting on the role of the researcher is to be aware of connections between the researcher and the participants or the research site that may unduly influence the researcher's interpretation. We have seen in our historical books or history or historians in this case that their personal biases or the connection with the certain groups come out in the latter stages. So, backyard research involves this concept given by the Glesner and his associate Peshkin, and they said that studying the researcher's own organization or friends or immediate work setting brings out this kind of biasness. This often leads to compromise in the researcher's ability to disclose the information and raise issues of an imbalance of power between the inquirer and the participants, because they know they are their friends and maybe disclosing the confidential issue or maybe conflicting issue will raise a question or maybe problem will be created. That is why the true picture of the result will not come out. So, when researchers collect data at their own workplace or when they are in the superior role of the participants, the information may be convenient and easy to collect, but it may not be accurate information. and it may jeopardize the role of researcher and the participants. If the studying the backyard is essential, then researcher is responsible for showing how the data will not be compromised and how such information will not place the participants or the researchers at risk. So, this backyard research is very important, where researcher have to be cautious about the this kind of scenario or the environment if created. So, data collection procedure in the qualitative researches, the data collection steps include the setting the boundaries of the study through sampling and recruitment, collecting information through unstructured or semi-structured observation, interviews, document and visual materials, as well as establishing the protocol for recording information. So, data collection in qualitative researches is having the scope of the study, selecting the participants or the site of gathering the data from the multiple resources and establishing systematic procedures for the recording and managing the information. The process begins with the clarifying the role of the researcher, researcher's position and the level of involvement directly influence how data are collected, documented and interpreted. Sometimes in project researches, the PI, principal investigator, has the assistant, research assistant or the associates, and they collect the data. So, there is difference of the direct involvement and via involvement. So, this also affecting the research. So, researcher must purposefully select the participants, sites, documents, visual materials that are most relevant to the research problem. Unlike the quantitative studies, qualitative researches does not rely on the random sampling or large sampling. The randomization is not the goal of qualitative research. The number of participants and the sites should be clearly stated. Qualitative studies usually involve small samples. Small sample size is guided by the research design like narrative, phenomenology, grounded theory, ethnography or case study, and determined primarily by the data saturation, not fixed numerical rules. So, you have to remember this data saturation, at the point when you are feeling that new information is not coming, stop collecting the data. So, that is called data saturation. Then researchers should specify the types of data to be collected. Qualitative inquiry typically uses the multiple data sources gathered over the time in natural settings to achieve the in-depth and completeness of the information. Qualitative observation involves recording detailed field notes on behaviors, interactions or the activities. Observations may be unstructured, semi-structured and range from the non-participants to participants role. Here non-participatory observation is easy rather than to participant role. So, qualitative interviews may be conducted in person, by telephone, through focus group or other ways also, like online conferences we can organize to conduct the interviews. Focus group generally include the 6 to 8 participants or maybe sometimes lesser than that, and the interviews are open ended and flexible to capture the participants' experience and perspectives. Document analysis is also being utilized, and it includes the use of public documents, reports, minutes, newspaper and the private materials like diaries, letters, emails, reflective writings, etc. Also, the audiovisual and digital data such as photographs, videos, artworks, website, text messages, social media content may also be used, and approaches like visual ethnography help capture lived experiences and narratives. And researchers are encouraged to adopt the innovative and non-traditional data collection methods alongside the standard technique. These may include sensory data or the use of meaningful objects to stimulate the reflection and discussion, thereby enriching the quality and depth of the study. Now, we will see through the process of qualitative researches. The more or less the process of research is same, that first you have to identify the research problem, the question, define the area needed deeper understanding, like why do students struggle with this x is class 10th, and select approach, choose a methodology, phenomenology, grounded theory, specific any other method or technique like interview, then data collection, go for the data collection, conduct the interview, go for the observation, gather the rich qualitative data, and after collecting the data, go for the data analysis, transcribe the interview, code data, do the coding and segmenting, then identify the themes and interpret the patterns which you have collected through the different sources of the data collection, and do the thematic analysis. And lastly, interpret and report the developed findings and describe the meanings and present the result using narrative, quotes or visual, whatever is required in your research study. So, overall this qualitative research represents a distinct and well established approach to the scholarly inquiry that differs fundamentally from quantitative traditions in the purpose, data forms and underlying assumptions. Qualitative research relies on non-numerical data such as words, images, observation and audiovisual materials to develop the deep contextualized understanding of human experiences. It is not running behind the numbers. Rather than asking how much or how many, qualitative inquiry is primarily concerned with the answering how and why. So, this how and why questions within the natural setting is the basic nature of this qualitative research. The modules highlight this present module on the qualitative research part 1 is highlighting that the qualitative research is interpretive in nature, it is inductive and flexible in nature. Meaning and theory emerge from the close engagement with the participants, context and data rather than from testing the predefined hypothesis. So, we are not predefined not generating the predefined hypothesis in here in the qualitative researches. The researcher plays a central role as an interpreter of meaning, making reflexivity and awareness of personal biases essential to credibility of the findings. So, if we are talking about this qualitative research, although its findings are not intended for the statistical generalization, it strengthens the understanding, informs theory and practice and complements the quantitative approaches by illuminating the lived realities behind observable patterns of the participants. Now, this is the reference I have given. Whatever names I have mentioned in the module, the whole reference is kept here for your further reading. If you are interested, you can go through the references, especially the content was based on the Creswell book and the Best and Cohen, and others were also referred here. So, I hope you will go through the content and go for further readings and strengthen your studies. Thank you.